Welcome to a short audio presentation for the BK 402 business context on problem 3 covering the legal aspects of the pharmaceutical industry. I will be discussing 3 significant areas which will be useful for your report or presentation. It would be helpful if you can listen to all the slides before the lecture so that more time can be spent in applying the legal concepts in your seminar time. Firstly, the role of law and ethics in the pharmaceutical industry will be considered. Secondly, the importance of corporate social responsibility. And finally, the impact of the intellectual property rights in the form of patents will be discussed. So let's look at the crossroads of where ethics meets law. Laws are rules which are placed to control behavior. Ethics can be the framework within which such laws are developed. As the eminent Judge Lord Denning said, without morality, there is no law. Law and morality together regulate the conduct of an individual in society. The definition of ethical behavior may hold different meaning to different people, in different sectors and in different countries. Ethical behavior respects the dignity, diversity, and rights of individuals and groups of people, and some laws rouse the moral conscience of the people and create such conditions. The consideration of ethics penetrates some businesses more than others. The pharmaceutical industry, producing essential life-saving drugs and medicines, is one such market that cannot ignore the ethical dilemmas and implications around issues of the cost of drugs, patent rights, and marketing of medicines, amongst others. Historically, there are a number of laws which would now be considered unethical, as they discriminated against the rights of certain groups of people. For example, apartheid in South Africa, or anti-Semitic laws in Nazi Germany. Internationally, what would be considered unethical here in the UK is seen as serving justice, such as the use of the death penalty in countries like the USA and China. The right to have an abortion is an ongoing debate on whose right is prominent, the mother, father, or unborn child. The issue of bankers' bonuses continues to discuss whether it is fair to pay large bonuses to bankers in this climate, and should there be legislation to cap them. Finally, the concerns of animal testing, which is used widely to develop new medicines and safety of other products. How far should the law go in listening to these ethical concerns? At its core, business is concerned with maximizing wealth or creating profit. If a business wants to be seen as ethical, it must also consider its ethical contribution. For a business to do well in the 21st century, a business must be profitable with a strong ethical ethos. Obviously, there will be differing international approaches to these ethical viewpoints. Some of these aspects will be considered later. A good example of an ethical and profitable business is the cosmetic company, The Body Shop, which has a long history of prohibiting animal testing for its products. The business is and remains popular in part because of its ethical stance and continues to make good profit. Likewise, Ben & Jerry's ice cream achieved an enviable market position whilst pursuing its commitment to the environment and other social issues. There are ethical considerations in the research and development of drugs, and the pharmaceutical companies have to make decisions about which diseases are high priority to research and develop and which are not. Will this mean that the developing world's medical needs are not as important as those in the UK, US, or Europe, as it is more profitable to service them? How are regulatory firms influenced to market a certain drug in hospitals over other smaller research-led firms? Also, is it more important to encourage innovation through patent protection or make it secondary to the needs of those countries that need these life-saving drugs but cannot afford to either wait or pay the high costs? There are no easy answers, and you may lie on one side of the debate or other, or somewhere in the middle. The law will consider both business implications and ethical and moral viewpoints. The next aspect to consider is the concept of corporate social responsibility. This evaluates which responsibilities companies and firms may have besides simply making profit. The European Commission described it as a concept whereby companies integrate social and environmental concerns in their business operations and in their interaction with other stakeholders on a voluntary basis. Is this profit maximization dressed up as social responsibility? Maybe, but does it matter if companies are donating money to charitable causes, engaging in community projects, or creating and maintaining a supportive environment for their employees? The push for more CSR policies illustrates that the actions of corporations, especially large ones like pharmaceutical firms, exert an impact on society, and so therefore should be responsible for taking action if they cause or contribute to some of the social problems. Thus, companies which demonstrate social responsibilities may improve their reputation, which translate into greater profits. The Corporate Responsibility magazine ranked the top 100 companies that are focused on more than just the bottom line. It considers factors such as environment, climate change, employee relations, human rights, governance, finance, and philanthropy. The business case for CSR has become manifest, and not because it's been regulator imposed. A report by the environmental leader finds that 73% of global consumers are willing to recommend companies that are perceived as delivering on their CSR programs. Companies understand how to create positive perceptions of their CR programs and gain benefits in terms of sales and recommendations from consumers. Some high-performing CSR companies include Cadbury's, the confectionery company, which has a long history, whose corporate ethics determine its policies regarding its employees and local community. Microsoft, Walt Disney, and Google are the best CSR companies. Microsoft donated $844 million in software to over 45,000 non-profits in 2011 and helped to use this technology in relief organization, amongst others. John Lewis Partnership has believed that commercial success is directly linked to being a good corporate citizen, and this shapes their CSR towards their employees, customers, and the society at large. Amongst this year's top 10 for best CSR was also Bristol Myers Squibb, a US pharmaceutical firm that has developed a foundation and invested in a broad range of programs, including health equity by improving the health outcomes of populations disproportionately affected by serious diseases and health conditions. Finally, let's briefly look at intellectual property, and particularly patents. IP can be defined as an intangible right to protect commercially valuable human intellectual ideas and products. This helps to encourage companies like pharmaceutical firms to invest in research and development. A patent gives an exclusive right to produce, use, and sell an invention for a particular term. So in the case of pharmaceutical drugs, normally a 20-year patent is given. Copyright is a property right to an original literary, musical, photographic, artistic, or film work, granting the holder an exclusive right to perform, distribute, reproduce, adapt, or display the work. A trademark is a name, symbol, or style used to identify and distinguish a particular organization, such as the Big M for McDonald's. A trade secret is a formula, procedure, process, or device used by an organization which is kept confidential in order to gain an advantage over competitors, such as the Coca-Cola secret recipe. There are protections against any infringements of unauthorized use of IP. Infringers can be sued and the court can order an injunction, meaning the infringer must stop what it's doing and may have to pay damages. IP protection varies from country to country, and this will be an interesting area for you to research, especially with regards to the developing world and its advanced ethical debates, and the availability of patented drugs to poorer populations. The WTO view of IP rights is contained in the Trade-Related Aspects of Intellectual Property Rights Agreement, also known as TRIPS. The ethical dilemma of the provision of relatively cheap public health drugs was tackled in the Doha Declaration in 2001, which allowed for compulsory licensing to manufacture generic versions of a patented drug. Brazil and India have benefited even though the patent laws of these countries are very complex. Both have produced generic forms of patented medicines to offer their citizens at a fraction of the price that the patented medicines cost. Many HIV positive individuals have extended their lifespan and increased their quality of life because of this. I hope you have a better understanding of CSR, ethics, and patents. This will help you in your problem questions. The first question: what determines the research and development costs for innovative new prescription drugs? How might legal and ethical considerations affect the cost of developing a new drug? Or secondly, you may choose to consider how the demand for prescription drugs differs from other products and the economic and legal factors that may restrict the availability of a new drug. It is important to discuss within your groups and then apply the legal and economic concepts to your problem question. Make sure you don't split your work up into economics, legal, and ethical, but look at the question as a whole and see what concepts you would like to apply and to what extent. Make sure you include group consensus on important aspects such as developing a new prescription drug, and decide what area you would like to further research on. Remember, you only have 10 minutes for your presentation or 2,000 words for your report. So give yourself plenty of time to include the necessary and important factors you consider are useful for this discussion. Thank you for listening, and I hope you can apply these concepts to your reports or presentations.